Hey, welcome back to another edition of Limited Skills. I'm James.
I'm Brandon.
And this week we're going to be talking about Iconic Masters again, because we've just been getting so much Iconic Masters product lately.
Our store got more, so we thought we were going to have to boringly draft Ixalan again, but we're too cool for that.
Way too cool. Now, Brandon, it's been like 2 weeks since we did this, so how much do you remember?
Very little. I remember my first 3 picks. Yeah.
So
I remember being excited about those.
So it's going to be like talking about someone else's draft.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Which will be really interesting. So what do you see in this pack? What's good?
Cryptic Command, and that's an easy one.
Now, you do look at Fire Mane Angel for a while.
I wasn't really familiar with it. I'd seen it before, but I couldn't remember exactly how it worked.
It's pretty.
So I checked that out. It does seem really good. Very strong and limited. If you're playing red-white, I think I would be real happy to take that in a lot of decks.
I ended up taking it, but I didn't play it.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
Bummer for you.
My draft went terribly. We won't talk about it except to occasionally allude to how bad it went. But you take Cryptic Command because it's definitely the best card in the
right
pack.
pick, for
it's probably
sure.
also worth a few dollars.
So I hear. After that, I don't know. It would be great if I could play that, but I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to force my first pick. Not trying to force a pick every time, but I do that a lot. That's fine. I see this guy and I have flashbacks to the previous week where it cost me games. I get real excited about the Hellkite because not only do I love the card, I just think it's cool, it's powerful, it's bomby, but it also works really well if I'm going into the blue-red, slower control.
Oh, sure.
Grindy game.
Oh, yeah, and it's got flash, so it's got that sort of blue control.
I can hold back my Cryptic Command and that and decide if I want to kill creatures and get a flyer or make them sad in other ways.
So that sounds awesome.
So these first 2 picks, I'm real excited. I'm curious what the guy to my right took over the foil Begarden Hellkite. I know there's a lot of things that could be more valuable, but more valuable and better?
Well, not only did he pass the foil in the pack, but he also passed the rare.
Oh, what was that? I didn't
That was
notice.
the Abyssal Persecutor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So,
I did notice that. We talked about it.
Yes. Yes, we did, Brandon.
Yeah, I think that... I don't know what he could have picked. I think that Hellkite was the best first pick out of that pack.
So there's a Crown Ceratok in here. The Dragon Lord Servant just makes sense because of the Begarden Hellkite.
Yeah. Also, that it's 2 for a 1/3. If I'm just going for that slower long game,
oh yeah,
it's a good blocker against an aggressive deck.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it sort of fills 2 roles in what little I have so far.
I like Battle Rattle Shaman a lot. Bladewing is interesting. Diminish is a good blue spell.
And this is the point where I go, wait. I've drafted 2 dragon cards already. I've yet to do black-red dragons, and I've got a big bomby dragon I want to get out there twice. So I do that, and pretty much immediately just write off blue, because it's going to be a lot harder to play into.
That being said, there's Repeal. Mark of Mutiny, I guess. Foul Tongue Invocation works with the Dragon
The removal that works with 2 of my picks. Yeah, I'm real excited about this draft.
Is the Dragon Lord Servant a dragon card, or is it a human?
I think it's a goblin.
Oh, really?
Actually.
Foil Bubbling Cauldron gets me excited. Prodigal Pyromancer seems good.
Yeah, I think this is good. Put a little pressure on them, can slow down an aggro deck, kill their things.
What do you think of the Keldon Halberdier?
I don't like it. And first off, my pick just a moment ago will answer it.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of ways to answer it. I think if you suspend it on turn 1 and you are in a really aggressive deck, it's going to be good for you. But if you draw that late, for 5 mana, you could play an Earth Elemental, which is a 4/5 that I think is better than that.
Sure.
For 5 mana, anyway. The fact that it has suspend gives it a different perspective, but you need to suspend it on the first or second turn for that to matter.
You just took Rakdos Drake, which I really like. I really like all the Unleash cards because I think they're really versatile.
It throws people off when you're playing dragons because they assume it's a dragon because it says Drake, but it's not a dragon. I just went for some extra flyers, but all the Unleashed stuff, I liked most of the Unleashed stuff when it was originally unleashed to us. But they chose all the best ones.
Ooh, Knight of Soul's Betrayal.
Yeah, it was foil. I wanted it. I think being in a slower deck, it would have been good, but I couldn't pass up another. So, okay, other than the dragon theme and just getting extra value out of it, it works really well for that slower game because it's killing a creature and gaining you life. So it's 2 things that keep you alive to your big dragon bomb.
Okay.
So in a dragon deck, it's a really easy pick to take. I just took that because it was a flyer.
Sure.
You can target the player also, so I had the thought of, if I'm holding Bladewing the Risen, I could target myself with it to potentially put a dragon in my graveyard.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Oh, I like Fury Charm again because it's flexible, and there are enough artifacts in the set. Oh, Abyssal Persecutor came around.
Oh, okay. So I talked about how that card screwed me in the
Right.
previous week.
Yeah.
I forgot that this is from 2 weeks ago. So this is the deck that card screwed me repeatedly. I forgot this is the week I drafted it. Let me explain. You can already see I've taken a lot of removal.
Mm-hmm.
I think I ended up with like 7 hard removal and like 3
there's a Grizzly
sometimes
Spectacle.
removal.
Yeah.
And I had 2 games where I ended up playing that demon.
Here, hang on. This is real important. Grizzly Spectacle or Foil Dragonlord Servant?
The Spectacle. The removals just...
I know, it's a better card.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
I did have enough removal that could have ultimately been debatable, but it was still the right choice.
Sure.
Okay, so I had 2 games this night where I played the Abyssal Persecutor on turn 4 and just aggroed them out. They couldn't deal with the 6 flyer, and I just never drew any of my like 9 removal spells to kill it. That was really discouraging because it felt like me and my opponent both.
Oh, here. Okay, here's
written
another
off.
actual question. The Dragonlord Servant or the Monastery Swiftspear?
I think the Swiftspear in most decks, but that I'm sort of going for the dragon theme.
Okay.
And the slower late game.
Now you just said that you ended up with a lot of removal, which is instants and sorceries typically, which would sort of make sense with the Swiftspear.
That's true. They work well together. I just think the Swiftspear would be for a more aggressive red deck.
Okay.
If the Dragonlord Servant weren't there, I probably would have taken the Swiftspear anyway, and probably played it anyway.
Sure. Now here's another question for you. Man, this is great. So you're looking at Fury Charm right now, but there's also Heat Ray, and there's Bubbling Cauldron. And Bubbling Cauldron solves the problem of how do I kill my Abyssal Persecutor? Because it lets you sack your own creatures.
Did not consider.
Oh.
I also, for what I was considering, I didn't think I would have any trouble with Abyssal Persecutor getting murdered by my opponent or me.
Okay.
It was a statistical anomaly, as I fall back on as my excuse for everything.
Well, because not only does it help you kill the thing that prevents you from winning the game, but it also helps you sack cards that aren't helping you win the game to
anymore,
keep you alive.
to keep me alive for those bombs. Absolutely. I used to think that card was meh, but playing against it several times, including against you, I do appreciate what it does a lot more.
Here's a dragon, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's an okay thing, but it does give me another way to trigger all those things.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know, 4 for a 2/2 flying fire breathing is like, okay, but when it's 1 mana less because you play that Dragonlord Servant, it feels oppressive.
So something that we didn't notice while we were drafting, there's a Vent Sentinel. We let Jimmy, who loves to draft insane, goofy decks, get 6 of them. He had 6 Vent
Literally
Sentinels.
6, yes.
And then he just wrecked everybody with them.
The Defender deck in Iconic Masters is very good. I've seen multiple people play it in different colors in sort of different ways, and it's been at least playable every time. Normally you have to get lucky and get like real specific cards to make it work, but it's really open in this format.
Sure. I want to force it sometime because I've always loved the idea of Vent Sentinel. I won a game on my upkeep with lethal on the stack with a Vent Sentinel. So like it's fun to play with, and I also love Doorkeeper as a win condition. I think Doorkeeper is one of the best milling cards they've made in a long time. But you can't draft the Defender deck if Jimmy's in your pod.
He didn't do it this last week because everybody accused him of it. And he was like, no!
Anyway, back to this draft. There's another Furnace Whelp.
I think I take that just to get more dragon triggers. So I got the Bladewing the Risen and that Begarden Hellkite immediately, which are balmy, awesome dragons. And really, they kind of dried up after that. The black-red stayed open, but I haven't gotten a whole lot of dragon opportunity. I got the removal, which is fine. What I really would have loved for this deck that didn't show up at all, I found out because somebody else in the pod had drafted 2 of them, were the Noxious Dragons.
Oh.
They have proven to be a lot better than I expected. I think they're better in this set than the con set they were originally released in. They just kill a lot more valuable things, and I would have loved to have had one of those, but the only 2 in the pod I never saw.
Oh. Yeah, I never saw them either.
I think those 2 early dragons I took were the only big cool ones I got the whole night.
So I know it looks like you're considering Radiant Flame. Not Radiant Flame, Radiant Fountain. You sort of stared at it for a minute.
I was just thinking if I cared.
Oh, about the 2 life.
And I didn't. Definitely not over a removal.
Dustdale Worm Heart is pretty good. There's the Frost Lynx, I think, is also good. So it seems like there's some good blue floating around still. Diminish is all right.
That's definitely true. That Frost Lynx coming so late is very surprising. Yeah. Look at that, James. You are good at picking up signals.
Man, it's like I watched this last night.
At that point, I'm just thinking which of these blue cards hoses me the most, and it's really easy for a counterspell to ruin you when you're waiting to cast your dragon to close out the game.
Mm-hmm. On the subject of signals, I have been spending a lot more effort trying to pay attention to them. However, I'm very bad at responding to them.
Yeah, and I actually think that's the bigger weakness. I think a lot of people can look at it and say, oh, clearly this color's open, and then keep trying to force the thing they've been forcing.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of the fear behind that is everybody's like, clearly somebody else is going to switch, so then it would be a real bummer if you and the person next to you both switch, because it's so obviously open.
Incidentally, that's what I did this draft. I thought, I passed Charmbreaker Devils, and then I got Lightning Helix, and I thought, well, I can't let that happen. So I took the Lightning Helix, and then I took the Firemane Angel, and then I never saw another red card the rest of the night. Oh, there's Vorinclex.
Yeah, I think I just take that to add to my collection.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, the Grizzly Spectacle is probably the best card in
that would have been the right pick. Probably the only actual good pick for my deck in that pack.
God, if you put Vorinclex in anything, I'm going to stab you in the throat.
Oh, no, I cut that out of EDH a long time ago.
Good. Prodigal Pyromancer. Now, would Vent Sentinel be reasonable in this deck?
Maybe.
Even just because it's a 2/4?
Maybe. Yeah, I feel like maybe I could have gone into a sort of sub defender theme. If I'd gotten 3 Vent Sentinels, they could have gotten value.
Mm-hmm. Even if you don't,
I think the Prodigal Pyromancer is the best pick for me.
Okay.
But I just
Mishra's
take this
Bauble's
for a
still
little,
like $8, isn't it?
maybe a little less, but
yeah,
I think it was the most valuable thing there. But I think the Pyromancer just for more little pingy kills. But also, that damage when you...
Do you play Mishra's Bauble at all in Iconic Masters?
Oh god, okay, I did play it. I played it because I had the Balustrade Spies. So
Okay.
I could look at mine or my opponent's deck to see what I was going to mill.
Oh, sure.
So if there was a land on top, then I don't bother playing the Balustrade Spy because they're going to draw land. I don't care.
Right.
I used it twice against Jimmy, actually. The second time I used it, I forgot the draw trigger at the next upkeep. And then I was like, I'm not good enough at this game. So I cut it. If you're bad at forgetting stuff in Magic, don't play Mishra's Bauble.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good it would be for your deck, you're going to just lose card value occasionally, and that's bad.
I learned a rule about, not about Mishra's Bauble, but about drawing cards because of Mishra's Bauble when I went to a modern event. Drawing cards is not mandatory, or not optional. It's mandatory. If an effect instructs you to draw a card, and then you forget to draw the card, if you remember later, you have to draw the card. And
I didn't double check if it says May.
It does say you must draw the card.
Oh, bummer.
And I learned that because I used the Mishra's Bauble to look at the top card of my opponent's deck, and then cracked a fetch. Or no, I looked at my card. I looked at the top card of my deck, and then cracked a fetch, and then shuffled up and told my opponent to go. I was going to get this, shock myself, and so I was just shuffling. And he took his whole turn while I was shuffling my deck, passed it, and I gave it to him to cut, and then I went to draw, and my opponent said, I don't want you to draw that card, you missed your trigger. So then we called the
That's
judge,
frustrating.
and the judge said, well, he gave me a warning, but he was really chill about it, and he was like, technically you have to, guys, just work on your communication. So that's the thing. So if you forget to draw, you need to go back to that game and let that player know, hey, I still have to draw one more
That's
card.
a really interesting situation because you're trying to shortcut to save time, which judges actually encourage. They don't want players to make everybody wait for every action anytime somebody shuffles. That's really frustrating that you were allowing the shortcut, and then when you were done with that, But it also makes sense.
Because
so
I
that's
missed an
interesting.
upkeep trigger on his turn.
Right.
Anyway, you're drafting more cards. You draft a bunch of Tormenting Voices.
I'm excited about that. So I was thinking about, I have a Bladewing the Risen Commander deck, and I was thinking, man, that card's sweet in there because I can discard my dragon, draw other cards, and then reanimate it easily.
Sure.
I didn't get to do that at all. I don't think I ever drew the Tormenting Voices.
Okay. So you're looking at, there's the Trumpet Blast, which is a little aggressive. There's Dead Reveler, which is a great example of an unleashed creature, I think. And then...
Yeah, it doesn't fit exactly in this deck, but it is really good in the format. I've played against an army of unleashed creatures, and those 3/3/4s are oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
They're hard to deal with.
There's a Bogbrew Witch. Tim was real mad that I took the Newt and the Cauldron, but not the Witch. So Mark a Mutiny or Rot, Feaster, Maggot.
I think that, yeah.
Because it's a 3/5?
Yeah, it's a bigger butt, so it's defensive. It also gains you life in a defensive way.
Okay.
So I'm playing towards that long end game.
Sure.
So honestly though, I only got 2 really in-game bombs, and I think that's where the deck kind of fell short. If I remember right, I think I went 2-1. And yeah, I didn't always get Bladewing or the Begarden Hellkite, and I did get a ton of removal, and that's how I won all my decks or all my games, because I got about, I think, 9 removal in all this, and then I also had that rebound card that gets me 2 random instants or sorceries back.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I was just killing people's creatures to a demoralizing level. And sometimes, even though I wasn't an aggressive deck, my 1/3 Dragon Servant would just get through for 10 damage, because I would just kill everything on their board. Overall, it was fun. It wasn't the dragon experience I'd hoped to have, but I'm glad I got to play dragons at all before Iconic was unavailable.
Sure. Now we're going to draft Iconic Masters again this coming Friday, probably.
Ooh,
Because
maybe.
the store got another case in.
That's likely. This will be our last one before Rivals of Ixalan.
Right, because this coming weekend is the pre-release.
So that seems likely that we'll do Iconic right before the midnight release.
Okay, so we should have some fun content coming out in the next 2 weeks with the pre-release event and all that stuff. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.